What's the biggest mistake people make trying to lose weight?
The biggest mistake people make when it comes to losing weight is that they ignore strength training. Strength training is an integral part of you being a healthy individual, especially as you age. And I think that people think that just burning calories alone is going to do it. And the reality of it is that in most cases, people that say, they'll come to us and say, we want to lose 30 pounds. There's a wedding coming up, or, I'm getting married, or whatever, like there's a trip, whatever the thing is. But then we sit down with the client and they realize, well, no, you don't want to lose 30 pounds necessarily. You want to change your body composition, right? You want to change how you look. So it's not necessarily a gross amount of weight that's going to make you look a certain way. I'll give an example. Let's say that your goal is to lose 30 pounds. Keep it simple. Okay, your goal is to lose 30 pounds, right? But wait a minute. If we were able to put 5 pounds of muscle on you, right, and you only lost 20 pounds, you will look completely different, right? Because what gives your body that fit shape is your muscle mass, right? If you lost fat, but there was no muscle mass to go in your frame, you're not gonna get the look you want. You're gonna lose the weight, but then, it's not gonna give you that fit look. So I think that is the biggest mistake, because if you start first of all, strength training is going to burn more calories per hour than cardio is, by far. Okay, so that alone should be enough of a reason for you to spend more time doing strength training than doing cardio. Number one. Strength training has an anabolic component to it. Anabolic means that it actually builds tissue, right? And cardio is basically, you create a little tissue, there's some fibers that will get stronger because you do cardio, but they're not large, it's not gonna be a large gain, right? As opposed to doing squats or doing leg presses, all compound movements that you can do with strength training. So having been able to do the strength training, you're burning more calories per hour, you have the anabolic component to it. So you actually, by the fact that you're building more mass, right, your metabolic rate increases. And think about it this way. Our basal metabolic rate is the cost of living. It's how many calories you burn throughout the day. But the total amount of calories that you burn throughout the day can increase with activity, but the basal metabolic rate can increase because you have more muscle mass, right? It's like a bigger engine. It burns more gas. So what does that do to your fat cells as you go? They become smaller. So I think that, and by the way, it becomes harder for you to gain weight later. It becomes harder for you to get fat because you have more muscle mass, right? Not saying that if you go crazy with your diet, then there's nothing you can do. But if you keep a proper diet, it's harder for you to gain the weight back. So I would say that's the biggest problem. Don't ignore strength training. You burn more calories per hour by far doing strength training than doing cardio. And, it makes the body fat loss, not just total loss, but the body fat loss stick much longer. And you're going to be happier. You're going to be happier how you look by doing strength training. So I think that is the biggest mistake.
What did you believe about fitness 25 years ago that was wrong?
What did I believe about fitness 25 years ago that I was wrong? Wow. Well, there are a lot of things that are different as far as, I had the same beliefs that most people going into any fitness program when I was a kid that they have, right? I didn't understand, and by the way, I started working out when I was 14, but I didn't understand volume intensity and duration and how that impacts training. I think that I certainly overtrained, meaning that I was training for many hours and I wasn't recovered by the time I trained again. So I certainly had that belief that more was better. And more is not always better. More sometimes is just more, you know? Going back to the intensity, duration, and frequency, that is the core of most training programs, right? Like intensity, like how hard you train. I remember training with a lot of duration and not training very hard, especially when I first started out. I thought it was like, if I just did this, it would be good. I would say the other thing that I didn't understand when I first started working out is that I used to look at Muscle and Fitness. I don't know if that magazine still exists, and I used to think that like, oh, I can look like those guys if I stay in the gym as long as they did, or if I did the same program that they had, right? So it was a lot of, then you understand, later you understand, it's like, oh, they're taking anabolic steroids and they're doing all this other stuff. But back then, especially in the 90s, people were not really coming forward about what they were taking. It's a big mystery and big secret. So I think that was the biggest thing, is not understanding the relationship of intensity, duration, and frequency. It was, and thinking that, oh, I can look like that without taking some of the supplements or whatever they were doing.
What separates people who succeed versus fail?
If you have to take it to the most common denominator, I would say is mindset. Mindset will, your mindset will destroy your prospective gains or losses, whatever your goals are. If you come in thinking that, how can I say it? The hardest clients that we had to train were lawyers. It was really hard to get a lawyer to do anything. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that they came with the mindset that they wanted to argue with you. and that's not a good mindset to work with the trainer or to work with anybody really, right? There's I think that's the biggest thing, is like you have to kind of, if you're going to work with anybody, whether it's a lawyer or whatever, any professional, you kind of have to trust that person. If you don't trust the person, and I get it because I have trust issues too, but if you don't trust the person, then don't work with them. Work with someone else, because the fact that you don't trust that person, that's going to cause you not to give yourself into the program, and you really have to, right? I say it all the time. Every program works, and no program works. It all depends on whether you do the work or not. Trainers are not with you 24 hours a day, and if you're in the mindset that you're gonna outsmart the trainer, that you're gonna find ways to cheat and still get the results, your body is a lie detecting machine. It will tell the truth, right? If you went out drinking this weekend and you had cake and French fries or whatever, it's going to show. And there is no arguing with that. And that's, I think, a lot of the people that, had this combative kind of mindset, right? They thought they could argue their way out of that. And I was like, I'm looking at the machine, I'm looking at the scale, I'm looking at the body fat percent composition, I'm looking at your caloric intake for the weekend. I mean, like, it's in black and white. Like, you can't lie about it, So yeah, I think those are the people that have the hardest time, is the people that come with the mindset that I'm gonna outsmart the workout program. I have never seen any of them ever succeed. And it's sad, you know. But yeah, I think that's the. Yeah, it's frustrating for the trainer too, because now we want people to succeed. So these are all the questions that AI decided to ask me, and hopefully this was helpful to you. I'm going to go to bed now because it's late. So, but watch the other stuff that we do, and God bless you, and good night.